Diabetes is one of the leading causes of death in the world. Type 2 diabetes develops most often in middle-aged and older adults. The topics I am going to discuss are diabetes pathophysiology, sugar and diabetes, what to avoid to prevent diabetes, and nutritional recommendations. When one has type 2 diabetes, their blood sugar level is too high. Carbohydrates are used by our body to make energy. After we eat foods with carbohydrates, it will go into the small intestine. In the small intestine, food is broken down into glucose. The cells in the small intestine soak up the sugar and it is distributed to the blood. When the blood reaches the pancreas, it detects the high amount of sugar in the blood. This will cause the pancreas to release insulin into the bloodstream. The insulin reduces the amount of sugar in the blood to a healthy level. The insulin and sugar will reach the cells. The cells have insulin receptors and the insulin will attach to the receptors so that the sugar can get inside. The cell can now make the sugar to make the energy it needs to work properly, and this will help the blood sugar go back to normal. With someone who has type 2 diabetes, the cells won't respond to the insulin. This is called insulin resistance. When this happens, the insulin cannot unlock the cells to let the sugar in. The insulin receptors are missing or they're just not working, so the sugar is locked out of the cells. When the sugar can't get into the cells, it builds up in the bloodstream. This is called hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia is high blood sugar. When there is an increase in blood sugar, the pancreas will make more and more insulin, essentially overworking the cells in the pancreas because they cannot keep up. Eventually, they will lose their ability to make insulin, and this can lead up to the symptoms of type 2 diabetes. Many people believe that sugar causes diabetes, but it does not directly cause it. If one consumes too much sugar, such as sugary foods or sugary drinks like soda and juices with a lot of sugar, then that can make people gain weight. Eating any type of food can cause someone to gain weight, and it will increase your chance of developing diabetes. Most people live on the go, fast-paced lives, so they resort to processed foods. And there are many processed foods that contain high fructose corn syrup, and this can definitely cause weight gain. High fructose corn syrup is most commonly used in processed foods because it is so cheap. Sugar is not the cause of diabetes, but that does not mean that one should consume a lot of it. It is important to limit your sugar intake.
So I'm a triplet. I've got one brother and one sister. I'm actually 4 days older than my brother and my sister, and we were born 4 months premature. On both sides of my family, I've got a family history of diabetes. On my dad's, it's type 1 with my grandpa and then my aunt, and then on my mom's side, my grandma has type 2. I kind of had a feeling that it could happen, maybe it wouldn't. I hoped and I prayed that it wouldn't. It was still kind of a shock to be like, well, you have it, because you hear other people having it or even other family members and you're like, oh, I'll be fine. And just so to know that I had it, yeah, it was a shock. I had some of the symptoms like excessive thirst and tired and a little bit of the weight loss that comes with it. And sure enough, the doctor came in and said, well, good news, bad news. Bad news, you have type 2, but good news is we caught it early. Taking the first class at Holland Hospital, I remember looking it up online and just feeling very overwhelmed. And when I came to the class and I went to all of them, it was nice to see other people who were either farther along in their journey with diabetes than I was, and just how they were handling it and just the advice that they had to share. I had blood work done and I got the result of what my A1C was. It was 15.4, and then through increasing exercise and just even being more diligent and mindful of what I ate. At my first 3-month checkup, it went from 15.4 to 6.2. Having a dog, try and get like an hour walk just about every day. I've also realized the way you need to eat with diabetes is really how anybody should be eating anyways. It's like kind of, in some ways it should be kind of common sense. And so if I approach it with that mindset of, well, you should be eating like this anyways, it makes it easier. That's a choice you make. You can choose to be healthy with diabetes, or you can choose to just not care. I've chosen to put the work in and make the effort, and I want to be healthy and happy. So those classes were invaluable to me.
If someone wants to prevent type 2 diabetes or just live a healthier lifestyle overall, then they should be educated on food that they should eat and how to control blood sugar levels. Since one of the top risk factors for developing type 2 diabetes is being overweight, it is important to exercise and eat healthy. That means avoiding junk food because they are high in sugar and saturated and trans fats. This will cause them to digest quickly and spike your blood sugar levels. No one ever really thinks about this, but skipping breakfast can increase your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. If someone is sleeping the ideal 8 hours of sleep a night, then eating breakfast is important to break your fast. When you eat breakfast, it helps the body's metabolism and changes the way it uses sugar. Rather than storing the sugar in fat cells, the body will use it for energy. When the sugar goes into the bloodstream, the pancreas will secrete insulin and regulate the blood sugar. As the sugar passes through the blood, the pancreas will secrete insulin, which will regulate the blood sugar. Type 2 diabetics will need to have a diet that has a low glycemic load, which combines the quantity and quality of carbohydrates and how it will impact the blood sugar. Main factors that will determine the glycemic load are the amount of fiber, fat, and protein it contains. Low glycemic load foods include brown rice, quinoa, vegetables, fruits, beans, and lentils. Non-starchy vegetables have little impact on blood sugar, so these are great to include in your diet. Foods to avoid because they raise blood sugar levels are sugar, white pasta, flour, cookies, pastries, sugary drinks, pineapples, and watermelon. In the future, I hope to see a decrease in type 2 diabetes because it is currently at an all-time high. Thank you for watching and listening to my presentation on diabetes and nutrition.